Welcome to the Going Alcohol Free podcast. Hello, I'm Lise. I'm your host. I just want to say welcome if you are a returning listener or if you are new here, welcome. In this episode, I am going to be sharing how I quit drinking alcohol, and not just how I actually quit drinking alcohol, but how I completely lost the desire for alcohol after binge drinking for 26 years, drinking almost daily. And there's a lot of reasons why I drink almost daily. And I share a lot of those reasons why my drinking started to progress and how it started to progress in that previous episode. So please go listen to that if you haven't already. Now, I don't think I've done a good enough job in explaining how alcohol really impacted my life. And some of these things are really embarrassing, so I'm not ready to share some of these things, but let me just tell you, my life could be made into a Hollywood movie. I swear it could. Do I want it to be? No. And since I've started this podcast, I haven't really shared enough about how alcohol really impacted my life, but it really did impact my life. And I'm going to be weaving more stories into upcoming episodes because there are some more very intimate details about how, when I was drinking, I made bad decisions that impacted my work, that impacted my life, my relationships. So I've been married twice, and I don't think I would have even gotten married the second time if I wouldn't have been drinking, and how there was some really bad things that happened along the way. And somebody asked me, why are you sharing these details about your life? Because if my story helps somebody, anybody, you maybe, cut back on their drinking or change their drinking or stop drinking altogether and have joy and happiness and peace, inner peace and love, and just enjoy their life to the fullest, that's my goal. And that's why I'm doing this. So just know that I will be sharing more details about how alcohol really impacted my life. I want to say, I almost used the word ruined my life, but here I am. Everything is great now. And that's what I want for you all. And that's why I'm doing this. So now let's get to the story about not only did I quit drinking alcohol, but how did I actually lose the desire for alcohol? This is the episode where I'm going to be sharing how I finally quit drinking alcohol. I lost my desire for alcohol, and so I quit. and 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 that was in November 1st of 2020 when I quit drinking alcohol, and I just have no desire to drink. So, how did I do this? If you haven't listened to the previous episode, you got to go listen to that first. So that's episode number 33, I believe. And it's the episode before this one. So go listen to that because it is my story of when I started drinking and how much I drank. And, there's just a lot to it. So go back and listen to that. Now, I want to pick up where I left off in the previous episode, part 1. And I had mentioned that I had quit my job, my corporate job that I was in for almost 20 years, corporate finance. And part of the reason why I was drinking so much too in my 40s was because, and this is, my late 30s, early 40s, my job was super stressful. And I didn't really emphasize how stressful it was, the deadlines and numbers, and I had overbearing bosses, more than one in different jobs. And it was the last corporate job that I had where there was a reorganization inside the finance department, and I got a different boss. I liked my boss before him, even though my job was still super stressful. And I was handling and coping my stress by drinking in the evenings and drinking a bottle of wine, 1 glass, 2 glasses, 3 glasses of wine. And On the weekends, totally just binge drinking from morning till night. Every single weekend, pretty much, almost every single weekend. So, yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that my job was there was a lot of stress to that. And honestly, I was feeling very stuck in my job. I felt like I had no options to change jobs because I was making really good money. And I know that I said that my job was a great job. It was a great job. The benefits were amazing. And I worked for a tech company, a software company. The benefits were amazing, but the hours and the quality of life that I had was no good because I was working all the time. When I wasn't working, then I was drinking to alleviate the stress and to kind of escape from my life. And so I just wanted to emphasize that feeling stuck and also the stress and the tension, I was burnt out. Those were a lot of the reasons why I was drinking a lot in my late 30s and 40s. And then I quit my job, but I was still drinking. So I didn't have my stress, from the job, but I had different stresses because now I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, not having a corporate job. And that was my life, like my job. I had my job and my off time, I was drinking or going to the gym. So it was like one extreme to the other. And I could go to the gym after work and then go home and then drink wine. So yeah, I like I said, I want you to know that I was not physically addicted to the alcohol, but I was definitely mentally addicted to the alcohol and using it to cope and using it to escape from my life and from my job and the stress and the deadlines. And not to mention that the alcohol caused me to procrastinate a lot and caused me to, almost miss deadlines. I mean, I did miss a couple of deadlines sometimes. And, that was no good dealing with that, repercussions. And I caused some of my own stress and some of my own anxiety because of my drinking. So I did want to just share that. And the other thing is that I didn't mention this, but I needed to mention this is that this is crazy that I forgot to mention this. But I grew up in a very Baptist home. So when my parents got divorced, and I had mentioned that I went to go live with my dad at one point when I was 6, I believe, my dad remarried to my stepmom, and my stepmom's family was Baptist. And all of a sudden, my dad became a Southern Baptist. So I grew up in a very strict Baptist home, which is why when I snuck out of the house and I was 15 and I got caught, I was kind of like put on this pedestal, and now I was no longer on this pedestal and from my dad. And that carried out through college. And, there's some more things that I'm going to share about that coming up. But I did want to mention that I was a born again Christian that was raised in a very Southern Baptist home, which is probably why there was no alcohol in get togethers, family get togethers, and holidays and things like that. I quit my job. Let's go back to there. I quit my job and I was thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do while I figure out what I'm going to do? What's my next career? Because my mom wanted me to go into nursing because she was a nurse. And I just really didn't want to go back to a college or a university. That was one thing that I really didn't want to do. So, what did I do? Well, one thing that I did was I became a mobile notary while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. So a mobile notary goes around and I was doing a lot of signings for refinances and new home purchases and sales of homes. Was I making the same amount of money that I was making in my corporate job? Heck no. But did I have freedom? Absolutely. I worked when I wanted to. But here's what happened. I was on a plane And I was sitting next to a pilot who was deadheading to another location. In other words, he was obviously not flying the plane. So he was taking a trip on that plane to his next destination. And I think they do that for safety purposes. The captains and airline pilots are only allowed to fly a certain amount of time. Anyway, I digress. But I was sitting next to him and I was telling him that I had turned 40 and all of a sudden, like, I was experiencing this weight gain. And I was like, where did this come from? I had never experienced weight gain or weight problems in my life because I was a really skinny kid. As a matter of fact, people made fun of me because I was so skinny. And all of a sudden, now turning 40, I was like, what is going on here? Gaining, 20 pounds, 30 pounds. I can't remember exactly what it was. And he mentioned to me this book, The Fast Metabolism Diet, The Fast Metabolism Diet. And this book had changed his life. It had helped him lose 40 pounds or something like that. And I was so intrigued. I was like, really? He said, yeah, you eat these foods on certain days and he said it was amazing. And I was like, my ears perked up and I was so intrigued. And I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this book. So what did I do after I got done with my trip? I came back and I bought this book, The Fast Metabolism Diet. And sure enough, I was amazed. The weight came off of me. And now at this time, I had already found my partner that I'm currently with still now. It's been 9 years, but it worked for him too. I was cooking and making these things. And yes, I was still drinking my wine in the evenings and still drinking. Not as heavy as I was when I was at my corporate job, but yeah, I was still drinking. And no, I didn't think that I ever had a drinking problem until I'll get to that. But I was still drinking wine, and on the weekends, I was definitely, when football was on, drinking, binge drinking. Anyway, this book, it changed my life because I was like, oh my gosh, I can change my weight by the things that I eat and when I eat. And really, all this book is telling you about when eating carbs, protein, and fat, which I never really knew anything about. I didn't know about carbs, protein, and fat, and how everybody needs a certain amount of macronutrients. And with that, you can easily lose weight and keep it off. I was so intrigued. I was like, I want to be a nutritionist. This is amazing. So when I was researching becoming a nutritionist, and yes, you guys, this story totally has everything to do with me quitting drinking alcohol. So I was still doing my mobile notary, but I was looking up becoming a nutritionist and I was like, I don't want to go to school, university. I don't want to do college. I just don't want to do all that again. I've been there, done that. I don't want to do that. I heard about health coaching online. I was, when I was like looking up nutrition and things like that, and I found health coaching and I was like, health coaching? What the heck is this? So I looked into health coaching and I looked at a couple different places that offer certifications, and I signed up for a health coaching program. Now, this health coaching program that I signed up for also had a life coaching program certification. I was so excited. I was like, I'm going to be a health coach and I'm going to help women over 40 lose weight because I did it. I can help other women do this too. So I got my health coaching certification and I became a certified personal trainer. And I also got a nutrition certification, a nutrition coach certification as well. And this is where I want to tell you that there was two phases to me quitting alcohol. So this is kind of like phase one, where I started doing personal development, going through health coaching certification, nutrition coaching certification, and becoming a certified personal trainer. And so I started doing this personal development and learning skills. By the way, for all of you, not to change the subject, but to change the subject, the number one thing that I recommend for everybody, even if you're drinking alcohol still, is to drink your water. Drink your water. And so this is my 62-ounce bottle of water. And so I got this on Amazon, of course, and I'll put it in the link down below for you if you want to see what it looks like. But drinking water is so important for your body and for your life and for your health. And so I just wanted to just point that out because yeah, I heard of water and drinking water, but I was drinking a lot of Diet Coke when I wasn't drinking alcohol or wine or Prosecco or tequila. When I wasn't drinking that, I was drinking Diet Coke. And my whole life, I've suffered with acne. And I'll tell you what, when I started drinking water, I noticed a difference in my skin. And also when I stopped drinking, I definitely noticed a difference in so much. But the other thing is, ladies, gentlemen, water will help you with your hair as well. And I went through a hair loss spell at one point. That's another story for another time. I'll tell you about that. But water will help you with the moisture in your hair, and absolutely, definitely drink your water. And I don't even know if I'm going to leave this part in, but I just wanted to make that really emphasize this point for you guys to please, please, please drink your water. And how much water should you be drinking? Take your body weight in pounds and divide that by 2. And that's how many ounces of water you should be drinking each day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should be drinking 100 ounces of water every single day. Okay. So anyway, so I became a health coach, a nutrition coach, and a personal trainer. And I started helping women lose weight. Like that was my job. And I was still doing the mobile notary as well, but I rented a gym. I started doing this. Was I still drinking wine? Absolutely. I was still drinking wine. But here's what I noticed is that after I started doing that for a while, it was something new, it was something different. I was really happy doing it. I noticed that I started going down the same pattern. I started making good money, helping these women and meeting them at the gym and doing the personal training and also helping them with their nutrition, with their food. And I was seeing success, but I started not being happy again. So, what was that all about? I mean, I was doing everything that I set out to do and I wanted to do. I wasn't in a corporate setting. I was making pretty good money, not the same, of course, as, working for a software tech company in corporate finance, but I was happy. I was doing good until all of a sudden I wasn't happy anymore. And I started to drink a little bit heavier again. The cycle started to come back on. Drinking, binge drinking, really adding the tequila in. I think that's what really threw me for a loop when I would drink the tequila and add that in because, of course, you'd get buzzed much quicker. And so I did notice that my drinking was getting a little bit heavier at this time. And I also noticed that I wasn't feeling as fulfilled anymore, also. So it was kind of like going hand in hand. And this was around 2017. And my partner and I were having some problems, and I was drinking more. And the drinking didn't make our relationship problems any better. I should put it that way. This is also when I noticed that I was really not liking who I was. I was not really wanting to look in the mirror at myself. I felt ugly, not only on the inside, but on the outside. I was in really good shape though at this time because I was working out a lot. I was always in the gym, but I was still drinking, of course. But, as we age, I think that alcohol makes us, ages us like, I don't know, faster because I didn't like who I was seeing in the mirror, but I also didn't like who I was being on the inside as well. I felt ugly on the inside, and I was starting to self-sabotage my weight loss coaching business. There was a time where I went on a little binge, and instead of it being on the weekend, it was like during the middle of the week, and I had to call off some sessions, and I just noticed that I was going down this spiral. And as I mentioned before in the previous episode, I was starting to put wine in coffee cups. And so I could like drink during the day if I wanted to, or on the weekend if I wanted to, like 8 o'clock in the morning, if I wanted to have a glass of wine or a Prosecco, yeah, then I would. And instead of drinking coffee, I would have that instead. Now, I wasn't physically addicted. I just want to make sure you guys know that. But I was dealing with our relationship that wasn't going very well. I didn't know if we were going to make it or not. And we had been together for 2 years at that time. So, yeah, I was coping with all of my emotions of feeling unfulfilled again in this newfound career and feeling unfulfilled in my relationship, which was at 2 years at that time. And at the time, my longest relationship was only 3 years. And I've been married twice. And that has something to do with subconscious things, which I will talk about at another time. The health coaching was great. It was wonderful. I learned so much. And the nutrition coaching, I was really getting healthy in terms of my body was looking in its best shape. But mentally, I still just wasn't happy. So in 2018, everything really started to change for me. And remember, I quit drinking in 2020. So November 1st, 2020. So what happened between 2018 and 2020? In 2017, actually, like I said, my health coaching certification program added a life coaching certification to it. So I went through that program and I got certified as a life coach. And with the tools that I was learning as I was becoming a certified life coach, things started to really, really change for me in my mind. And I started to seek out more personal development, more things that I could learn online. And I discovered Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer online, on Audible, on YouTube, Hay House. I started listening to Wayne Dyer. And the things that he was teaching, it was making so much sense to me that our thoughts create our feelings. And that's something that Louise Hay taught. And Wayne Dyer. And everything that I was feeling, I felt like I had to cope with it to feel better because of alcohol. But really, what I had to do was work on what I was thinking about that was happening, that was going on in my life. My present things that were happening in my life and things that happened in my past. And how did I want to look at them? And how did I want to interpret them? And what ended up happening was in 2018, one day I woke up and I said, you know what? I think I'm just going to drink Prosecco and Chardonnay this weekend and not get tequila. And I did that for a little while where I just drank Prosecco and Chardonnay. And I was really immersing myself in spirituality. And I think I also at this time discovered Abraham Hicks, which teaches the law of attraction, which also Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer, they also teach the law of attraction. And I started to learn and understand universal laws, and I just couldn't get enough of it. And then I discovered, okay, so let me stop there. So after a few months of just drinking Chardonnay and Prosecco, I decided that I was going to I was going to cut back to just with Prosecco and Corona Light. So I was going to go back to beer. And I don't know if you noticed this, but I was cutting back not on the amount that I was drinking, but on the alcohol by volume. And so I just said, you know what? I think I'm just going to drink today. I'm just going to do Corona Light, and then I'll move to Prosecco. So I'd buy a 6-pack of Corona Light and like 2 bottles of Prosecco. That was like for the weekend. And, at night time, I was drinking, instead of wine, I was drinking Corona Light. So I was like on this Corona Light kick because it's light, right? It's like, 6% alcohol by volume or something like that. I'm not sure. but I was drinking 3 or 4 of those. Like, I wasn't counting how much I was drinking. I was just like, instead of drinking the tequila and then instead of drinking the Chardonnay, I was just changing up what I was drinking. And then about 6 months later, and remember, I've immersed myself into, like, every day I was listening to these audiobooks and I was still coaching women on weight loss, but I wasn't doing in the gym setting anymore. I was doing life coaching with weight loss for these women because I was helping them use their mind to lose the weight, in addition to, of course, moving their body and eating healthy. But I was really helping them focus on why they were overeating or why they were emotional eating. And remember, I was a emotional drinker. I was a binge drinker, and I drank because I wanted to cope with my emotions. So, as I'm teaching these women about emotional eating and using their mind, and I'm also incorporating what I'm learning from Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay and Abraham Hicks, we're seeing fabulous results here. But I'm also starting to make changes myself without me even really noticing it. I'm not noticing that I'm making changes, but I'm making these changes. Because I never set out to like go alcohol free. I was just making little changes in what I was drinking, not in the amounts. I would still just drink until I didn't want to drink anymore or until all of it was gone, as a binge drinker does. Then I started to study mindfulness and meditations. And mindfulness is just really being aware of your thoughts in the current moment. So, your thoughts and being present with what's happening right now. And how can you think about things differently? How can you be mindful right now and in the present moment? And meditation, which is just a focused practice of mindfulness. And I'll tell you, it's the combination of all of these things starting in 2018 is what really started to make a difference in my life. Because remember, I grew up as a Baptist in a Christian home and Christian, and I'm not saying that religion is wrong. I'm just saying that there's so much more, I think, out there in terms of spirituality that is more helpful than religion to me. And you may disagree, and that's okay. We can all have our own beliefs about things, but I'm just sharing what worked for me. I have to say it was probably 2019 now where I decided to just cut out the beer and to go with just the Prosecco. So now I'm only drinking Prosecco. In other words, when I go to the liquor store, I'm only buying Prosecco. I used to go to different liquor stores or to the different grocery stores around because I didn't want them to see me day after day after day after day. So I would literally rotate going to different stores. And I've done this my whole life. Maybe you can relate. Um, but yeah, that's what I would do. And my recycle bin was always full of bottles and clanking and yeah. So if that's you, that's okay. That was me too. And now it's 2020 and the pandemic is about to hit. So I was one of those people that was so happy to be at home. I was already kind of at home, but I was doing some Airbnb stuff, which is another story for another time. But was doing renting some Airbnb stuff, and we got shut down in 2020. But in 2020, because I was able to be at home and we couldn't go anywhere, I really doubled down on just listening to as much as I could audiobooks, spiritual books, books on the subconscious mind, really old books. And if you like, I will put together a list of these books that I read or that I listened to. They changed my life. So now I am really into spirituality and mindfulness and meditation. And it's 2020. And I'm listening to all these books. And so remember, I was drinking just Prosecco. So my boyfriend brought home Claw. And I tried one of the seltzer. I don't even know what they're like, seltzer with alcohol in it, the little cans. And I tried one and I was like, wow, these are really good. And I was looking at the calories and I can't remember, like the really low calories, and they tasted really good. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to switch to these. And I stopped drinking Prosecco and I just switched to Claw. And I just started drinking those instead. And I remember that I thought they were good, but they were really filling. They made me feel full, but I stuck to those. And so now it is October of 2020, and I was just drinking Claws, and I woke up. We were on vacation, and I woke up that day, and I said, I don't think I want to drink today. And just, I don't have any urge to drink today. I just woke up that morning and I remember that evening, especially like, we're on vacation and it's like 5 o'clock or whatever. And that's kind of when the urge comes. I really had no urge to drink alcohol. And then the next day came and I was like, you know what? I don't want it today either. And then the next day came and I don't want it today either. And here it has been so I'm recording this in April of 2024, and that was in November of 2020. And I never counted my days, alcohol free. I just stopped thinking about alcohol. I just stopped thinking about it. And I really have like when we go eat at a restaurant, I have no urge to drink it. Christmas parties, I have no urge to drink it. I have no desire to drink alcohol whatsoever. There are two more things that I want to just mention here. Remember how I had said that, and this is in the previous episode, every time I would go out to eat, I would need to drink wine or drink alcohol. Every time. It was a habit. That was definitely a habit where I felt the urge to drink alcohol every time I would go to a restaurant. So I think it was in 2018 when I started doing this work, the spiritual work, the mindfulness work, and the meditation, which is a focused practice of mindfulness. When I started doing that work, I would go into the restaurant. I told myself, I'm not going to drink tonight at dinner. And it was so hard to do for about the first 10 times. Every time I would go out to eat, I would order water and not alcohol. And it was hard for about the first 10 minutes. And then it was easy. And then I didn't think about it anymore. But then the next time I would go to the restaurant and they would ask, what would you like to drink? And I would say, water, please. Water. And for about 10 times, I would have to say, it was hard. I felt the urge to drink a glass of wine, but then it would pass, when it was time to order drinks, and then it would pass and I would just sip my water. I just want to let you know that what I did along the way was make little conscious decisions to just change my behavior just a little bit. That's all that I did. But I know that there's more to it than that, because there was some healing that also had to go on in my life from my dealing with my dad, dealing with my past, dealing with my mom and dad's divorce, and fighting myself with wanting to change the past, which we can't change the past. and coming to terms with all of the things that I have gone through in my life. Remember when I said that I was a little girl, and this is in the previous episode. I was a little girl, and I told my dad when I was proud of him for not drinking alcohol when I was 8 years old, and a friend had come over and brought a bottle of wine, and I was proud. How did I know that at the time? There's a reason why I knew that. And that is what I'm going to share about in the next episode, because there's still more to the story. And I'm going to be sharing more to the story of the internal work that needed to be done on myself and that was happening all along as I was learning more about spirituality and letting go of so much that I believed about myself, of being unworthy and the self-sabotage and the perfectionism and the people pleasing and the I'm not enough and the negative self-talk, all the things that were going on inside of me for my whole life, pretty much, which is why I was a people pleaser and why I was a perfectionist, and which is a lot of the reasons why I was drinking, was to compensate for how I was feeling, which is the not good enoughs and the I'm not worthy and who am I to think this way or consider myself this or whatever. All of those things that had been programmed in my subconscious because of my childhood, because of the things. Anyway, there's a little bit more to the story. So let me come back and share that piece with you in the next episode. All right. Now, if you all have any questions for me, I want you to send me an email. Let me know. I want to hear from you all. I really want to let you all know that going alcohol free, it can be done. And it can be done without willpower. It can be done without AA. If that's what you want, or if you want to drink less alcohol, it is 100% possible for you. And you can do it any way that you want to. You just have to choose the way that is right for you. And maybe the way that I did it might be right for you. Maybe AA might be right for you. Maybe therapy might be right for you. There's so many different ways to go alcohol free. But it starts with making a decision. It starts with making a decision. And all I decided was to change what I was drinking. That's it. I just wanted to change what I was drinking. And that's what I did. And so let's pick up on some of the internal stuff, the internal work and the spiritual work, because there's more to the story here. And I'm going to be sharing that in the next episode. Thank you all for being here. Bye for now.